Good evening, everyone. So we're going to continue our book club with autism awareness. Again, April's Autism Awareness Month, but we're starting a little bit early because we have a lot that we can just connect with each other about. So again, just the structure of this whole book club for all are welcome is on this channel. Make sure to subscribe so that you get the notifications. My niece and nephew were the ones that were able to give me a little more details about YouTube today. I'm still learning, but this channel has a lot of different resources to it. It really is supposed to just be meant for instruction during this time of distant learning. It's an extra resource for my students who are, still navigating through Google Classroom and all the fun assignments that I'm able to send home and communicate with families. But the book club is specifically anything that says extra credit. There will be different episodes with extra credit. So yesterday was extra credit episode 1. We talked about hope and endurance. Today is extra credit episode 2. And before we start reading, again, we're always going to do one excerpt from The World According to Mr. Rogers. It's a wonderful book. And then we're going to get as far as we can within 10 minutes into the book that we chose for this year, Uniquely Human. Before we get into it, if there's something that I just really feel compelled to share, that I'm just going to go ahead and share that before we start. So this primarily is just a way for me to check in with you, just to see how you're doing, make sure that you know how much I love you and that I'm here for you, even though it just feels different. I feel that, this season for me is extremely uncomfortable. The way I communicate that I'm here for you and that I love you is through big hugs and, a lot of just taps on the shoulder or high fives. Just being present with people is really how I am able to communicate that I care. So when I don't have that, it's really difficult for me to communicate how I care. Hence the YouTube channel. I really don't know any other way that I can, connect with people and, just express that we're figuring it out together. But what I wanted to really share with you all today, I've been thinking a lot about grace. So again, yesterday, hope and endurance. Today, I really want to focus on grace. And what I saw as far as grace extended to others was just a wonderful example of, I was walking a lot with my son today, and he's walking now, he's 15 months old, and, we're walking on the sidewalk, and everyone that we were about to pass by, no matter what the age, even if they had a couple dogs with them, they actually moved out of the way for my son and myself when my intention was to move out of the way for them, just so that we can, respect the social distancing. So, as they were far enough in front of me, but I knew they were going to pass me, my intention was to move out of the way and just to be gracious to the people that we were coming in contact with. And they did it before I could do it for them. And I thought that was a really beautiful, beautiful picture of grace, and something that I experienced throughout today is it was just a really hard day. It was a really frustrating day. To summarize, my son is starting to throw temper tantrums where he's actually hitting his head on the ground and hitting his head on really hard surfaces, and it's just, as a parent, it's so hard to watch. And my husband, God bless him, he's just so wonderful, just reminded me that as much as I want to give grace to others, I also need to give grace to myself. And when I see my little headbanger do things that I feel responsible for, that, he's banging his head on the sidewalk, it has to be my fault, I'm sure that there are things that you're going through that maybe you're internalizing too much. Maybe it's something that really is out of your control. That, for me, if I'm a great parent or a horrible parent, I think at this point in my son's life at 15 months old, he's just going to be a headbanger no matter what. So I'm going to practice what I preach, and I'm going to try my hardest to give myself grace. So if anyone is going through that as well, really, really try to give yourself grace. If you normally give yourself a lot of grace, give yourself a lot of pats on the back, good for you. Maybe try to do that more for others. Be that person that moves out of the way for someone, just to make someone else's life a little easier. So really think about grace, think about what that looks like as far as what you give to others, as well as practice what you preach. Make sure that you are giving yourself a lot of grace, because you deserve it. You really, really, really do deserve it. So we are going to read, I don't even know if we're going to get through the introduction. Eventually we will. We have nothing but time. Of course, before we start, the excerpt that I chose in the I already forgot, The World According to Mr. Rogers, is, how many times have you noticed that it's the little quiet moments in the midst of life that seem to give the rest extra special meaning? So are there little quiet moments in your life, and how can you use those quiet moments to give this season of your life extra special meaning? I challenge you with that, because I know that this season of all of our lives are going to give a lot of meaning, but maybe you can turn it into the positive. Reframe this season, reframe the story, make it positive. You have the power to do that. So, uniquely human. We're still in the introduction. A few years earlier, the person asking was a world-renowned musician. He and his wife invited me to observe their 4-year-old daughter. The girl had not been responding well to intensive autism therapy that required sitting for long periods and responding to different directions and commands. Her parents wanted a second opinion about the best approach to helping and supporting her. On my first visit to the family's sprawling home, the father gestured for me to follow him into another room. "Can I show you something?" he asked. He reached behind an upholstered chair and grabbed a paper shopping bag, then stuck his hand inside and pulled out a toy. It was a bumble ball, a battery-powered, textured rubber toy with a motor inside to make it vibrate when it was switched on. I could see that it had never been removed from its original packaging. "I bought this for my daughter last Christmas," he said apprehensively. "Was that a bad thing? I thought she would like it." I shrugged. "I can't see how it would be bad," I replied. "Well," he said, "her therapist told me it would make her more autistic." It made no sense. A brilliantly talented celebrity so paralyzed by the words of a 30-year-old therapist that he was scared to give his own daughter a toy? For more than 4 decades, it has been my job to help parents like these, people from all walks of life who are struggling with the realization and reality that their children have autism, and to support the educators and various professionals who work with these children. More and more often, I meet parents who have been thrown off balance, who suddenly feel perplexed, sad, and anxious about their children, not knowing what an autism diagnosis means for the future of their children and their family. Their distress and confusion stem partly from information overload. Autism spectrum disorder is now among the most commonly diagnosed developmental disabilities. the U.S. Center for Disease Control estimates that it affects as many as 1 in 50 school-aged children. A flood of professionals and programs has emerged to serve these children. Physicians, therapists, schools, after-school programs. There are karate classes and theater programs for children with autism, sports camps and religious schools and yoga classes. At the same time, charlatans and opportunists with minimal or no experience, and even some with professional credentials, advertise their approaches as breakthroughs. Unfortunately, autism treatment is a largely unregulated enterprise. Think about that. All of this has made life even more challenging for parents. Which professional to trust? Who can explain your child? Which treatment will succeed? Which diet, which therapy, which medication, which school, which tutor? Like any parents, these mothers and fathers want what's best for their children, but struggling with a developmental disability they don't understand, they don't know where to turn. My job for 4 decades has been to help them transform their desperation into hope. Oh, we talked about that yesterday. Hope, hope, hope. To replace anxiety with knowledge, to turn self-doubt into confidence and comfort, and to help them see as possible what they thought was impossible. I have worked with thousands of families touched by autism, helping them to reframe their experience of the condition and in turn build healthier, fuller lives. That's what I hope this book will help you do. Whether you are a parent, a relative, a friend, a pal, or a professional working to support these children and their families, it starts with shifting the way we understand autism. Again, I have witnessed the same phenomenon. Parents come to perceive their child as so radically different from others that the child's behavior seems beyond comprehension. They have come to believe that the tools and instincts they would bring to raising any other child just won't work with a child who has autism. Influenced by some professionals, they see certain behaviors as autistic and undesirable, and perceive their goal as eliminating these behaviors and somehow fixing the child. I have come to believe that this is a flawed understanding, the wrong approach. Here is my central message. The behavior of people with autism isn't random, deviant, or bizarre, as many professionals have called it for decades. These children don't come from Mars. The things they say aren't, as many professionals still maintain, meaningless or non-functional. I couldn't agree more. Autism isn't an illness. It is a different way of being human. Children with autism aren't sick. So true. They're progressing through developmental stages as we all do. To help them, we don't need to change or fix them. We need to work to understand them and then change what we do. In other words, the best way to help a person with autism change for the better is to change ourselves, our attitudes, our behavior, and the types of support we provide. How do we do that? First, by listening. I have worked at the highest levels of academia and served on the faculty of an Ivy League medical school. I have published my work in dozens of scholarly journals and books. I have addressed conferences and presented workshops in nearly every state across the globe, from China to Israel, from New Zealand to Spain. Yet, The most valuable lessons about autism have come from lectures or journals. Have not come from lectures or journals. Ugh. They have come from children, their parents, and a handful of extremely articulate adults with the rare ability to explain their own experience of having autism. One of these is Ross Blackburn, a British woman who speaks more insightfully than practically anyone I know about what it feels like to go through life with autism. Ross often repeats this mantra: if I do something you don't understand, you've got to keep asking, why, why, why? So again, if I do something you don't understand, you've got to keep asking, why, why, why? We will stop there. We are still in the introduction, but again, grace. What does that mean? How does it look when you're giving it to others? And how does it look when you're giving it to yourself? Uniquely human. I'll see you tomorrow.